excited to talk about two of my favorite topics, hiking in South Mountain Park, and then other places around the city too. So that'll be a lot of fun. Because we have a small group, do feel free to have your cameras on, and we can turn it into more of a discussion. So any questions you have, let me know. Any directions you want to go, we can take it there. And I have some other things I plan on showing you as well. So a little bit about myself. I'm a psychology professor at Gateway Community College, which is in Phoenix. When I'm not there, the vast majority of my time, I'm at South Mountain Park. I like doing anything there is to do there. Hiking, so I've hiked every trail in the park. I actually did it all 1 year for this book, but I've done all the trails many times, and like to mountain bike and just simply be there. Sometimes I'll go out there and work or write or just reflect on life, which is nice. I've also spent some time volunteering. So I'm a park steward, which is an excellent program. You assist rangers at the park with helping educate users, making sure that they're being safe, and then building trails and wiping out trails, and get to learn a lot through that process. So that's a great opportunity at the park as well. And I wrote a book that just came out last month in September about South Mountain Park, and it's the first guidebook available for this park. So something I was very excited about. So I'm going to talk about today for hiking is what you need, how to stay safe, and where to go. I'm going to give you a number of examples at South Mountain Park and other places as well. So first, what I wanted to ask is those who are here participating, why you're interested in hiking. And I'll start out by defining what hiking is. For me, it's walking on dirt. So that doesn't mean an all-day thing. It can mean you take your dog out for 10 minutes. There's a dirt path by your house. That's hiking, right? So yeah. For Kavita, for Tamara, just wondering why you're interested in hiking. And also specifically, there's places you've heard about, you've seen pictures from people that you're interested in and what those places were.
Can you repeat? Can you say that one more time?
Andy? Yeah, I just want to know if there's any specific reasons why you're interested in hiking, and if there's any specific places you plan on going, if anybody's told you about a place, you've seen pictures of a place that looks like it'd be fun.
Yeah. I mean, I have been interested in hiking, and I'm scared to go by myself. So I had to tag along. I mean, I have to ask my husband. So, but hiking is something I enjoy a lot, and I don't want to go by myself. So I'm looking for something to get like easy hiking places. Or yeah, I'm not a big hiker, but I love to go hiking. So, and especially because I like outdoors.
That's terrific. And yeah. You should be afraid to hike by yourself. It's not ideal, especially if you don't have a lot of experience.
Yeah.
Things can happen. So that's not something to regret. That's a good thing for sure. It's
okay.
One really neat thing about the area where we live is it's pretty easy to find hiking groups. That if you use social media like Facebook, there's a lot of groups that post hikes. Or if you go through Meetup, I know at the Santan Park, they have quite a few group hikes. And that's a wonderful way. You'll find it for any ability level that you want.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, at the Santan Park, they have some that are organized by the park. And then there's also some other groups that just meet out there. And so it's way safer, especially new places and things like that.
Okay. Yeah, I will definitely look into that. Yeah. So maybe check the Facebook and yeah.
Tamara, is there anything you wanted to share about your interest in hiking or places you wanted to hike or anything like that? That's why some reasons why I think it's good to hike is it improves physical health. I mean, it's a really fun way to stay fit. It improves mental well-being and reduces stress. Part of why I'm so focused on trying to spread the message about this right now is just that people really need this, that I've been in the area of psychology and how this connects is identifying with research I've done and research other people have done that people are becoming disconnected from being outdoors, and it's causing some serious consequences. That there's some people doing brain scans, and you can see that that people's brains are changing to where they're more easily distracted, lower attention spans, trying to multitask, but becoming less able to actually do so. And some of the key causes of that seem to be too much time on electronic devices, not enough time outdoors. So my focus is to just get people outside, finding something they can do, right? So one of the things with hiking, the point isn't how far or challenging you can go, right? It's just that you're outside. You're outside for an hour and you go a half a mile, you're going to get the vast majority of the benefits of that. You don't have to hike the Grand Canyon every single time you go out to see some benefit from that. And in particular, I think it's great to bring younger people, just getting them to develop a love of it when they're young, setting healthy life patterns. And I spent a lot of time with that, right? I've helped some school groups set up hiking clubs and just try to make it fun for kids. And it's also a good bonding opportunity, for people you go out with. If you're looking for people to hike, just ask around your workplace. I find it's really fun. I mean, it's helps people get into healthier behaviors. The happy hours and things like that aren't quite as common. More and more people don't participate. So you do the hikes, you can get almost faster bonding that way and kind of more authentic things when people are out. So it's a lot of good reasons to do so. And the safety part we've been talking about. So what you want to bring with, water is the most important. If you're on trails for any length of time, you need water. It's pretty critical. And you need more water. However much water you think you need, bring more than that, right? So how people end up in trouble, because I work with the rangers, I've seen a lot of rescues and know about stories, people who need to get rescued, and it's almost always due to water is the issue. What can happen is you intend to go out for half an hour and don't even bring water, but you get mixed up and you're out for 2 hours, and then things can get pretty dangerous in the desert here. Or it can happen quite commonly when people end up getting dehydrated is they could do something as simple as sprain an ankle, but it slows them down. So again, they end up being out way longer than they intended to, and that can become a pretty challenging situation. And you end up on the news if you're lucky, and that's never a fun look, right? So water is important. Sunglasses, sunscreen, hats. If you're going out for any length of time, some snacks, particularly salty snacks, are good. It can help. One thing is that you sweat. You don't notice it as much here because it evaporates so fast, but then you're losing a lot of salt. So salty snacks will help you replace that. And even if you go out for a significant amount of time when it's warm here, you'll be able to feel salt crusted on your skin. I mean, it's that noticeable how fast it's getting through. Cell phones are good. I wouldn't necessarily count on them working everywhere. Some of the parks here, you don't get service. There is still places where that happens. So you should have some type of backup plan with a map, but cell phones are good. Then proper shoes. You want closed-toed shoes, non-slip soles. Don't hike in flip-flops at all. Everything here is coming at your toes, right? The insects, animals, plants, it's all trying to attack you. Don't give it any openings. So you don't need necessarily hiking boots. Most of the trails in the Phoenix area, you have a decent pair of tennis shoes, you're going to be perfectly fine. But you do need that. So any questions about that, about what to bring? When you're planning your hike, so plan it out in advance. It's not great to do spontaneously unless you're going with somebody that knows the area very, very well, but you should check a map. Places like South Mountain Park, you're not going to get lost where nobody's going to find you for days. The park's only at the widest 2 miles north to south. So you're always fairly close to hitting a road. You can end up being out for a long time. So if you don't know exactly where you're going, you could have intended on being gone a half an hour and it turns into several hours, and that's unpleasant, right? So you're probably not going to get life-threateningly lost as long as you have water at South Mountain Park, but you can get uncomfortably lost. So check a map, then realistically assess your ability. So that's pretty important. If you haven't hiked much, start low, right? You want to come back and have had a good experience and know you could do more. That's the right place to be. Because you exceed your limits, there's no really turning around at that point, right? You're kind of in it there. Then checking the temperature, learning your own temperature cutoffs, going gradually. So if you haven't done it much and you're not sure, try to cut off at 80 and don't hike when it's over 80 and see how you do with that. Then maybe bump to 85, 90, see where you get. For me, I don't do well if I hike if it's over 90, so I like to avoid it at that. But other people are different. I have friends who can hike when it's 105 and they do just fine. Some people it is more like 80. So don't jump right into the 105. Start low and work your way up just to see what you tolerate. And if you start to get kind of dizzy and not feel well, something we were talking about in our pre-topic conversation that happens to everybody, but you want it to happen mildly, right? You just realize the best scenario is to kind of see where your temperature cutoff is and to just say, that's not a good idea. I shouldn't exceed that. You don't want to end up where you're starting to get kind of dangerous there. And then bringing a friend. It's always a really good idea to bring somebody with and part. You make better decisions with other people usually. If you think you missed a turn and you're not sure and you start taking other turns, if there's two people, you can kind of say, we should just stop, just stop and see what happens. Or if you do start to get disoriented from the heat or something, there's somebody else to help with your judgment. So recruiting a friend is always a good idea. Some examples I have for trails that are good ones. And I'll go into detail on each of these, show you where they're at, a little more detail what the trail looks like. But I have ones at Papago Park, South Mountain Park, Lookout Mountain, the Skyline Regional Park, and the McDowell Sonoran Preserve. All have excellent trails for beginners. The first one at Papago Park, that's located right in the heart of the city. It's right by my college, by Gateway Community College, and it's out by the airport. And that probably has the best place to get started. You'll see the city from all directions. Impossible to get lost at Papago Park. They have a nicely graded trail, so it's pretty accessible where it's intentionally smooth and wide enough for people to pass both directions. That one's a 2.7 mile loop. And then if you do well at that, you can start to do higher things there to where you're actually kind of scaling rocks and stuff. So that's a great place to see. And that's on the opposite side of Galvin Parkway from the zoo. On the same side of Galvin Parkway where the zoo is, it actually uses the same entrance as the zoo, is the hole in the rock, which is really fun. You've probably seen pictures of this, of people overlooking the city, and there's a big hole there. And there's a trick to that. It looks like they're doing some rock climbing, but there's actually stairs around the backside you can climb up. And it's just a third of a mile. It's a little bit of climb with the stairs. If you have an issue with heights, it might make you a little bit uncomfortable, but it's pretty neat. But real quick, you can jump up to something. So that hole in the rock's another good one in that area. From there, also located in the city of Phoenix, out at South Mountain Park, there's several great trails for beginners in different parts. If you see on your screen there, I have a map where I put arrows to where each of them are. In the central part, so located off Central Avenue, that's the main entrance for the park. The trails I put are the Judith Tunnel trails. That's actually paved. It's 2 half-mile loops. The idea of that is that it's fully accessible. So people with mobility issues, people that are just getting started, if you want to take people from out of town who've never been in the desert before, it's a good place to start because there's not a lot of issues you have to deal with there. It's flat, graded, but there's still beautiful views. And it's a wonderful look at the park. You can see the city from an elevated viewpoint. So it's a really great place to be. They also, it's closed right now and it hasn't opened back up yet, but they have a visitor center there called the South Mountain Education Environmental Center. And they have fantastic displays on the Sonoran Desert, on the ancestral Sonoran people, the history of South Mountain Park, and really very well done there. And then also located in that same area, there's a Kiwanis Trail. That's a good one when you're ready to take another step up, and it's literally a step up because there's a lot of stone steps built in, and that'll take you up to a saddle that's the middle of the South Mountain Range. And it's a bit of a climb. It's about 500 feet, but it's quick. It's 1 mile up and 1 mile down. So if you're good with stairs, you'll be good on that one, and you can get a great view. It's generally not real crowded, which is nice. And it actually is one of the only places in South Mountain that's shaded a good portion of the time, which is good too. And that shade provides a lot of vegetation. So it's a great place to see animals and birds and a wide range of plants. So that's a pretty good one there too. And finally, the east side of South Mountain Park is a dirt road, and that is the official trail name, the dirt road. It's very creative, I know, but it's also apt. It's a nice wide trail. It is 1.25 miles each way. And that's a very popular one with families, people kind of getting used to the mountain because it's real wide. The wide trail, if you're worried about critters to any degree, it helps you see things before it sees you. So you get a nice warning about animals such as, and I've seen snakes out there. It doesn't happen a lot, but it happens. But you see them when they're a good 100 yards away, which for many people is as close as they want to get. So it's a nice indicator from them on that one. And at that one, there's a neat area at the end of the trail, which is some civilian conservation corps ramadas. They're oftentimes mistaken for ancestral hokum dwellings. They're actually not, but the civilian conservation corps, they're still almost 100 years old, part of an incredible part of American history, and really neat to see. Is there any questions about any of those trails before I move on to the next park? The next one I want to share is the northern part of Phoenix. I put a map up again so you can see that. It's just north of the Phoenix Mountains. And that's called Lookout Mountain. There's a circumference trail. It's a 2.6 mile loop. It's a really lovely one. You get incredible views. The entire trail is elevated enough you can see the city very well. And it's not real hard, loops around the mountain. It's nice as you do that a few times, work your way up. There's a trail that goes to the top, which gets fairly challenging, but it's awesome. It's a real quick climb, tough climb, but then you get to see the whole city. It's, in my mind, is kind of comparable to Camelback and Piestewa Peak. It's not as hard, it's not as high, but there's way less people. So it's a nice trade-off. It's most of the time I'd rather go there than the other mountains because they get so busy with parking and people and just get kind of crowded. So I like that one a lot for views. And one of the newest recreation areas in the city is located out west. It's past the 303. It's right off the 10, but past the 303. You're out. The address is Peoria, but you're really almost to Buckeye in my mind when you hit that point. And that's the Skyline Regional Park. And they built some absolutely beautiful trails there, all different levels. Great place to spend the day. They have wonderful picnic sites out there, and the views are amazing. I mean, I put one of the pictures in the slideshow there. You just feel like you're in the wilderness, even though you're just outside the city there. And they have the newer trails are oftentimes more accessible. They're not going to be, like, if you're familiar with Camelback, it's a lot of scrambling and climbing. They just pick the straightest route up the mountain, which is how they used to do trails. Or even ones like Piestewa or that Kiwanis Trail at South Mountain I was just talking about, they'll build steps. The steps kind of deteriorate over time and they get to be, 18, 24 inches, which I'm like 5'5", so that's a big leap for me. So the newer trail designs, it's much more gradual. They put in things so the water holds up better, so it makes you get the same amount of climb, but it's much easier and it's much more accessible than more newly designed trails. And they have some great examples there. One of my put is the Granite Falls Loop out there, which gives you some wonderful views, and it's I qualified as a beginner level trail. So that's a very fun one and just a great area overall. Then the McDowell Sonoran Preserve, the Marcus Landslide Trail, which is at the Tom's Thumb Trailhead. This is located up in northern Scottsdale. Tom's Thumb is an incredibly popular hike to an awesome viewpoint. It also will get snow. It's far enough, just far enough north outside the city that those colder days, a couple times a year, you'll get some snow up there. And not enough to build an igloo or anything, but enough to say you saw snow, and you might be able to scrape together a snowball on the ground there even. And that one's wonderful history. It's one of the largest landslides in the country, and they have some signage about that. And it was identified by a couple of Arizona State University students when they were graduate students. They were hiking and thought this seemed kind of interesting, and they pieced together what had happened. The mountain had collapsed, and there was this rock slide, and they were able to do some graduate work. And one of the people who noticed that actually works with me at the community colleges, so it's pretty fun. He's still active, and a neat connection there. That one's 3 miles round trip. It's a great one to take kids on too, because it's really cool rock formations to see out there, and just very picturesque and accessible and fairly easy as well. Turn it over to all of you for a second and see if there's any other trails you'd recommend, any you've been to, you think other people might like to do. And feel free to use the chat or be unmuted too and share.
I've been to the South Mountain Park one time. That's it. So I don't know much about the trails. So that is why I'm here for the class. Yeah.
Good deal. Hopefully we gave you some good ones to explore.
Yes, you did. Yes. Thank
One thing
you.
I'll cover in a little bit is fees, which if you're not familiar with the parks in the area, I'll kind of talk about what they charge at each ones and how to get it for free or cheap. So it's always helpful, right? How about our other participants? Is there any trails you'd recommend to people?
We've just been here a few years. We came in 2018 from Illinois, so it was all new to us. And we discovered we're in South Chandler. So we discovered the Santan Regional Park, and also very accessible. You could do it just regular shoes if you want to, some of the trails. I think the Moonlight Trail was our first one. It's like a couple miles, under 3 miles. It's a loop. So you come back to where you started. And then we worked our way up to the Gold Mine Trail, the Dynamite Trail. And this year we're going to try to do that as a loop. So that'll be a little bit longer, maybe like 6 miles, I think. And a little bit more elevation, like 790 feet, I think. So
you jumped up into some tougher stuff, because those trails they got some big climbs. They're definitely accessible, but it's a step up.
Yeah, the Moonlight, there's not much, but the Dynamite and the Gold Mine, we worked our way up to, because that was more of a climb. So,
did you do the guided Moonlight hike by any chance?
No. Are you talking about something that like moonlight being at night, or?
Yes. Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No. I know they do the sunset walks and stuff out there.
Yeah.
I just joined the Master Gardener program out in Pinal County, and I'm going to try to do one of their saguaro. I think they do in May. They do like a sunset walk. So I'm going to try to do some of those evening things. We did go see a couple of different presentations by the Master Gardeners out there.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's beautiful park, really nice and very accessible, I thought.
Kavita, that's another good option for you. They do a sunset moonlight hike that's guided. So they have a group of people you go with, and it's very easy, just a couple miles, but you get to be out there at night and you get to watch the bats come out and the birds go home, and It
Okay.
almost reminds me of a changing in shift, because you see all the birds come home and the night animals, like they fly into the cactus into their homes, and the night animals leave, and it's pretty neat.
Well, that sounds fun. We haven't tried that yet.
I have a recommendation. If you take the dirt road that you talked about, and then instead of coming back the dirt road, come back through the Pima Wash, you get a nice, you're walking a lot in well, it feels like sand, I guess, but you're following the course of the wash back to the trailhead, and you see a lot of interesting things in that low area where the water runs. Sometimes you actually see water running.
Oh, wow.
Oh, after a storm, sometimes
After
you
a
see
storm.
after a storm, you sometimes see water running, or see the leftover pools before they dry up.
There's a couple places there where you can actually see for several weeks after a storm where underground water's coming out. So it's not just the surface water, but it's stored there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one of them that's towards the western end of the trail. Keep your eyes out for it, but you'll see a number of petroglyphs. And if you get closer, you'll see it's scratched in, dated something like 1905. There was a camp there, because there must have been an underground aquifer at that time. It still holds water for a few weeks after a storm, which is really rare. Like, that's not something you're going to find out here. So thank you for that suggestion. That's a wonderful one. Thank you all for your suggestions. It's a wide range of stuff we have here, right? As I said, I encourage people to take younger companions. It's great to get them out on the trails, seeing some things, trying this out. Is anyone here interested in taking kids? Is that something you would do? Perfect. So we'll cover a few things for that. So some tips for kids: proper footwear. I take my kids' friends all the time. That's something I insist upon, just because if they try to go in flip-flops, they're going to rip, they're going to get poked. We're not going to make it very far. So they have to have proper shoes. I recommend bringing some type of activity for kids. So it can be kids' binoculars, give them a map to play with, some art supplies. You can stop at the end of the trail and they can do some drawing. Camera. For the camera, you can use your phone, but you also can get for like $20 from Target a kid's camera. And then it's kind of better, because once you give them the phone, they're doing all kinds of stuff, right? They get distracted. Just give them just the camera, and then it keeps them going longer. It gives them something to do. Safety whistle is a very good idea for a kid, because they can get excited and forget where you are and end up somewhere else. In the picture there, a lot of kids' outdoor gear has it built in. So the one that says Camelback, that's actually a whistle built into it. And if not, the orange ones, those cost $1 a piece. You can get a pack of 10 of them for $5 probably, available at any outdoor retailer or on Amazon. And I suggest having kids from a very young age take a pack. So my kids could walk on their own. They had their own little pack. There'd be pretty much nothing in it, but the idea just gives them a sense of independence and helps them kind of just see what they should be doing and start to carry some of their own stuff. Some things for keeping kids engaged: start early. They can hike at very young ages. I mean, I started my kids in backpacks before they could walk, but as soon as they walked, we went on trails. A key is going to be, you don't insist on, we're going to do a 5-mile hike today. So we're going to go on the trails for a while, and we're going to see how far we get. And we're going to let them explore. And it takes a lot of patience, but it'll pay off once they enjoy it, and then can start doing quite a bit of stuff. Include them in the planning is pretty important. So telling them where we're going. They oftentimes don't understand time or mileage. So saying we're going to go for 2 hours, or we're going to go for this, doesn't make that much sense. But maybe say, we're going to be gone as long as 2 of your shows are, or we're going to be gone for the amount of time it takes us to get from our house to grandma's house. So find a way to put it in perspective for them. It'll make them more comfortable. choosing trails, the destination is good. So that dirt road I mentioned at South Mountain Park, and the Pima, and then taking the Pima Wash on the way back is fun because it gives them a lot to explore. But the Ramadas at the end of it, kids kind of like that because they can go and climb around in these old stone structures there. Or if you're places with a waterfall is great. Places you can get to somewhere is good for them. As I said, be patient and realistic. When you're with kids, don't go in with a mileage expectation, right? Just be outside for a while, turn around while they're still happy. Allow time to explore. You know, that's one mistake I think people make, and they're trying to get somewhere and the kids want to check out a leaf or look at a cactus. They say, come on, we have to get here. But that's really the point of it, isn't it? That they see things that they like and they enjoy being out. That's really the point of them being out there. Another family is fantastic. You'll get much longer hikes and more time outside if you've got another family with you. And then reviewing safety guidelines. So even now with my kids, they've been hiking for many years. We still talk about some expectations related to the place, such as if you don't see you're the adult, you just stop. You don't try to find them. You don't look around. You stop. You remember you have your whistle, different things like that. And then layers are pretty key too. Comfort level is going to be something that's going to cut your hike short. So making sure they have enough layers that they can remain comfortable is a pretty important one there. A couple more tips I have. Giving them their own pack, some of their own water. That's some pictures there of a pack I really liked for my kids when they were little. You can get little kids packs, just a small drawstring pack. And don't put a lot in it. That's not really the point. It's just that they feel equal. You know, the adults have a pack. I have a pack. They get used to being independent, being responsible for themselves. And then, so I started my kids, I said, hiking around 3. By the time they were 7 or 8, they're carrying most of their own stuff. So they're carrying their own water, their own food. And with that, they can jump up pretty quick. That my 11-year-old's been to the bottom of the Grand Canyon a couple times. So she's gone from just, 15-minute hikes at that dirt road trail in 8 years to being able to do that just step by step. And very willingly, she's the one asking me to take her down and do stuff like that. So it's just step by step, you'll get pretty far. And then it gets really fun too. Like the first years, it's cute what they do, but it's kind of frustrating because you're out for 2 hours and you can still see the parking lot the entire time. But that's how you learn, right? I like to tell people you start kids at 4 or 14, it's going to be a rough start. But you start them at 4, you get a lot more years to enjoy it than you start them at 14. So I like to show them pictures of animals and plants we're going to see in advance. Really focus on a couple of them, especially things like a cactus. You're going to see that. So showing them a saguaro. This is a saguaro. This is how it looks like. Here's how we identify it. They'll be really excited when they can find something like that. Want to teach them to pack it in, pack it out. So taking out their own trash, kind of being responsible for themselves in that way. I recommend using electronic devices sparingly, as little as possible. I mean, it can be helpful for maps. It can be helpful for taking pictures. But in my experience, once that's out, it's going to be used constantly. So try not to use it unless needed. And then appreciate it. Even those early years, the rough years, that's going to be some of your best memories are, some of the funnier things that happen there. Is there any questions for me on that? Anything I could cover in more detail or any tips? Oh, Cisco, you said you're going to take some kids. Is there anything else I could cover?
Is there a weight limit? I'm sorry, not weight limit. Is there like a suggested weight you say to carry? Like I know we don't have to carry a lot of things, but as light as it will be better. But, so I'm asking. So water and
For yourself?
Myself, and if I am going with kids too, I wanted to know both.
Kids, the point's not the weight, so start as light as possible.
Light
at first, it can be empty except that they're drawing stuff or their headlamp or whatever you have to keep them occupied, right? Maybe one little bottle of water or something. It's not really about them carrying stuff, just getting used to the pack. For yourself, you have to carry what you have to carry. I mean, it's like you need extra water. When I first moved here from Minnesota, when I first moved out, I always wanted to time it so I got to the car and I had no food or water left. So I didn't want to be carrying this stuff. That is stupid. I got so lucky. That's incredibly dangerous. You're just going out and your best case, your only case scenario is everything goes as planned. But how often does that ever happen in life, right? So for you, you should have water left. If you ever get back to your destination, you didn't have water left, that's a mistake and you need more for next time.
Yeah.
But kids, keep it light, add on to it as little as possible.
Okay.
I wonder what you say when kids, I mean, it sounds like your kids would not say this, but maybe some kids you take along with you, friends or something, I'm tired.
My kids said that all the time. All these things I learned the hard way, right? Because I didn't do any of these things. So I have 2 kids, so I got 2 shots. That was kind of nice too. The younger one took a lot less damage. And the thing is just to keep them distracted, right? I mean, it's one of the things is keep it short. So when you go out the first time, like even do loops. So don't take them very far from your destination. So if they're tired, you can get them back real quick, right? Or if they're tired, they can rest. And then just try to get them distracted. So if you like the camera, for example, save it until they start getting tired, then give them the camera and say, okay, I won't turn around now, but take some pictures on the way back.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think they're really all that tired. It's maybe I'm bored. It's maybe, I don't know why we're doing this, or I'm a little uncomfortable, but the complaint is I'm tired. And I know those are good ideas. Good ideas.
It's usually when they're saying I'm tired, it's actually I'm bored, I'm hungry. So having food's a good one too. You start getting tired, give them some food. So lots of food and different snacks.
Let's stop for a snack.
Yes. I mean, really being tired, we're going to tire out way before they ever do, right? The same kid that says they're tired, they're going to be in the parking lot wrestling and chasing each other around. And so.
Right.
Hey, Andy, I have a quick question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are there any specific first aid kit type of things that you would suggest people bring along?
What I would suggest is at one of the local outdoor stores, like REI or just Roughing It, get a very basic kit that should keep you fine. I mean, all you really want is wipes that can disinfect things that can heal up a minor cut. Unless you get training, you're not going to be able to use the advanced stuff properly anyway. So there's no reason to carry a giant pack. And what you get is going to be the size of a coin purse. That's for weight too. So just for doing day hikes, that's perfectly fine. If you start doing longer things with groups of people, that's where you're going to need a bigger pack that has more advanced stuff. And that's also where you should get some training on how to use it. So what you're mostly looking at is just minor cuts, basically, and just you want to get that clean as soon as you can to make it less likely to get infected. You don't want to be bleeding. That's unpleasant. So just things like that is going to be sufficient. Other things like people want to try to bring stuff to treat snake bites. Don't do that. You're almost impossible. You're going to get bit by a snake. The vast majority of snake bites, it's something like, because I've looked into some research on this for things I was doing, something like 2/3 of people in Arizona that get by rattlesnakes are young males who've been consuming alcohol. And so I don't think anyone in this group is going to qualify as a young male. So we're all pretty much off the hook there, right? So the vast majority of people that get bit by snakes are messing with the snakes. They don't want to be around you. If you're encroaching upon their space, they're going to bite you. And if you're not, it's unlikely. In the chance you did, you just need medical intervention. There's nothing you can do that's going to make that better other than just medical intervention as soon as possible.
Okay.
So that's my recommendation for that. Any other questions? We'll move on to how much this is all going to cost. The thing is, it varies based on what you want to do. So City of Phoenix parks, some of the ones I talked about, which is South Mountain, the Phoenix Mountains, ones like Camelback, Piestewa, that Lookout Mountain, free. There is no charge at all at Phoenix parks. Doing research for the book, I did find a story about a young man back in the 70s who set up a kiosk outside the gatehouse and started charging people $5, which was, very entrepreneurial, but it cost him a night in jail. I don't think that was very profitable for him. So those ones, no charge. Other park units vary. If you start getting into this, knowing which unit is which is going to help you out because you can get passes. So for example, Santan is a Maricopa County park, what's called regional parks. And that's a great pass to get. I think it's somewhere around $70 for the whole year. But then you can go to Santan, and they have a whole string of parks that's just on the outer edge of Maricopa County, encircling the whole county. And they're some of my favorite parks because they're all within an hour's drive of wherever you happen to live, but they're wilderness on one side of it. That's kind of what they're going for. They're all very nice facilities. That's going to include, if you ever heard of McDowell up by Fountain Hills, Usery out in East Mesa, Cave Creek up north, the White Tanks in Estrella out west. So around that whole city is the regional park system. And if you're going to use that a few times, it can pay off pretty quick because they can cost $7 to $10 each for entrance to those. Examples of some by category. So the city parks, South Mountain, Papago is our city parks. That one's always free. North Mountain. I have all the regional parks on there. Lake Pleasant's also in that regional park system. So that's a good one to go to. Then you have state parks. State and national parks, the entrance fees can get pretty expensive. So just plan ahead for that or consider, again, an annual pass. Usually if you're going to use it 3 or 4 times, that's going to be the cost of that annual pass there. State parks are places like Picacho Peak, which is halfway between Phoenix and Tucson. The main Picacho Peak hike is one of the hardest in the area. There's going to be you're pulling yourself up cables, you're actually climbing rocks, but they have some hikes in the lower area, which are much more accessible. And if we have a good wildflower season, that's one of the best places in the area to see wildflowers. So even if you don't want to do much hiking, you can see those from your car down there. Then Lost Dutchman is a lovely park, and that's also a state park east of the city. That's a great one too. The national parks, that's where your admission can really spike up, and the fee structure is strange. There's some where it's free, and some like the Grand Canyon where it can cost $35 per visit. So just kind of planning ahead for that. Again, considering a national pass if you're going to go a number of times. And we're fortunate enough that we have 3 national parks in Arizona: Grand Canyon, Saguaro, Petrified Forest. We're probably going to get a 4th too. It looks like Chiricahua down by Tucson is on the short list of next up for a national park. So that'd be pretty neat to have to add to that. Any questions on those?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
And then if you want to learn about South Mountain Park, in this guide, I have information, kind of some of the things I've covered here about how to get started hiking if you're interested, how to bring kids, and I have step-by-step. If you're interested in mountain biking, I have some information on that. And then I have a guide for every single trail in the park that tells you where it is, how to get there, how hard it is. So that's available at the Chandler Library for a request. You can request it from there. Also places like Changing Hands, Just Roughing It Outdoor Retailer in Scottsdale, and also national retailers as well. So check it out. And if you have any comments or questions or anything, feel free to let me know. I'm going to put an email address into the chat box here. questions about anything related to the parks or anything I can help you with, I'll say, I don't know every park in the state. There's tons of them. South Mountain Park, I know very well. So questions, comments, let me know, how your hiking goes. I'd love to hear about it.
Okay.
Any questions I can answer for anybody?
No, I think we're good. Do you have any questions?
We're good.
We're good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
Yeah, thank you. This is great information. I feel inspired.
Yeah,
Excellent.
that is what, that is,
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
Excellent. It's
That
the
we
best
can
time of the year to get out too, so take advantage, right?
take, yeah, yeah.
Trails aren't as crowded yet. We don't have so many visitors, but the weather's still nice. It's a good combination.
What animals would you see possibly in the South Mountain Park besides coyotes and snakes? What other animals? Let's say 4-footed animals. And sure, of course, you're going to see a lot of birds, but
Yeah.
are there bobcats? Are there other kinds of animals? Are there deer?
There's no deer. Actually, a couple months ago, if anyone reads Arizona Highways, they had a feature on South Mountain Park, and they said there's deer there, and that's actually wrong. There used to be. You can tell from the petroglyphs that long time ago there was bighorn sheep, deer, and pronghorn, but they haven't been there for decades. So you're not going to see much 4-footed animals. Coyotes, if you go by sunrise or sunset, you're almost always going to see or hear coyotes. But other than that, nothing too interesting probably. There is some kit fox there. There's bobcat. It's unlikely you'll see those. Javelina, actually, the eastern part of the park has more javelina, which is fun. You occasionally might see a desert tortoise, which is pretty cool. Those are pretty rare as well, but some of the birds are my favorite. Roadrunners there a lot, which is neat, and the Gambel's quail. So that's something to look out for. There's a lizard that's about 18 inches long, and it's called the orange-tailed chuckwalla. In South Mountain Park is the only place in the entire world where that specific orange-tailed chuckwalla exists. And they're there from time to time. And depending on the time of year, you're not that likely to see snakes too. So if you're looking for snakes, pick the time of year sometime around February, depending on the temperature, is when they come out, and they're very active for a good 6 weeks. So if you want to see them, go out a lot during that time. If you don't go out as much during that time. And then pretty soon here, they're going to go into hibernation. Until then, it's not impossible. Sometimes they don't fully hibernate, so occasional snake will come out, but it's pretty rare to see them in that window in between. We were last week pretty close to into hibernation. It got warm enough this week they might have come back out, but pretty soon they'll be gone. Yeah. Any other questions?
It's more of a personal question to you. Along with kids, what time do you go normally? Around 5-ish or 6-ish? The time in the morning, yeah.
Yeah, I started going pretty early just because you get the park to yourself and it's peaceful and you see more animals and the weather. So if you go up before sunrise or right around sunrise, so if you can bring a headlamp and go a little before sunrise, parking is going to be easier. There'll be less people. You get some nice peaceful time, even on the weekends. So that a lot of the trailheads at South Mountain Park, if you're going to go there after about 8 o'clock on the weekends, you're going to have a really tough time. I'd almost say then wait and go in the afternoon. It kind of is less crowded. And this time of year, the afternoons are lovely. If you're going the afternoon, bring a headlamp for sure in your pack, just because if it takes a little bit longer than anticipated, it's not fun to be out there in the dark. It's a little rabbit starts to sound like a mountain lion if it's dark out. So.
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. if you think of any more questions, feel free to just shoot me an email and I'd be happy to answer for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Appreciate your time. Nice checking in with y'all. Enjoy your hiking too.
All right.
Okay,
Thank
now,
you.
right? Yeah.
Up to you.
Be
Yes.
well.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Take
Bye.
care.
Thank
See
you. Yeah. Very good. Thank you.